regardless of my opinion, the rules are the rules, right? I've always said this. I've always said this. The main mission of the Oklahoma Broadband Office is to, one, achieve what the legislature told us to achieve, and that was at least 95% connectivity in the state with reliable and affordable high-speed internet. With our programs that I just briefly mentioned, with our ARPA program, we are going to achieve that 95%. And we hadn't even started BEAD. Something that's been helpful for us has been, working with someone like you, Scott, and your company, the ability to have our stuff automated. I can't tell you how many years you probably have added to my life and my team's life by having this tool, because we're not necessarily reinventing the wheel or having our team do this by hand. One thing I'd take away is we've got to figure out how to get all this done within now 70 days. And time management is absolutely critical. It's really simple how I see this. Not as a red issue, not as a blue issue, but as a red, white, and blue issue.
Everyone, we're going to get started. I want to welcome everyone to our Speed BEAD webinar series. This particular episode, we're joined with Mike Sanders, who is the Executive Director of the Oklahoma Broadband Office. This series is going to be accompanied with some office hours, which will begin the week of July 8th. But today's goal for our webinar session is to help states execute the benefit of the bargain round. We have aptly named it the Bob round. Bob Marley, Bob Bennett. There's a number of different Bobs that are going down here around here, but rapidly and strategically. And Mike has been so gracious in his time with his team and his staff to help us understand how Oklahoma is approaching it and Oklahoma's perspective as they work through their shot clock. And so we want to highlight, again, Oklahoma as a model of speed and compliance, as well as preserving their existing work. And Oklahoma is one of those shining examples that have been building projects through other federal programs, SLRPLF and Capital Projects Fund, as well as BEAD. And as you all know, Mike Sanders has been leading that effort on behalf of his team. Mike, as you recall, right, we were looking at this 90-day clock that's really not 90 days, right? We have officially 50 working days and counting left, about 65 days total. But the clock starts on June 6th. Correction letters are due July 6th, which is just over a week. Many of you states have already submitted your template letters to NTIA. And have already started your unlicensed fixed wireless notifications and evaluation, but that begins on July 9th, as you can see. Other milestones, and we're going to talk about today, is the benefit of the bargain of the Bob round, which has to be completed by July 30th. The cleanup round happens in a 2-week to 21-day process after that. Public comments open just for a week at the end of August through September 1. And again, all states are working towards that September 4th submission of the final proposal, although we have been advised that some states have already received waivers or at least submitted waiver requests to NTIA to extend that beyond September 4th. So again, Mike Sanders, want to welcome you. I want to get your initial impression on this sort of 90-day, not 90-day, actually 50-day shot clock that we have going. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we're going to come back to you, sir.
All right. Well, Scott, thank you for, reaching out and I'm really looking forward to today. So I really appreciate you and your team for putting this together. My initial thought, it's one of those moments where, I can remember exactly where we were. It was on Friday, and I had my communications team with me. We were actually coming back, shocking as this may sound to my fellow colleagues, I was coming back from a groundbreaking event in the metropolis of Kiowa, Oklahoma, which is way up in northeast Oklahoma, just east of Tulsa. And we were on the turnpike when my communications director said, well, we just received notification from NTIA on the guidance. So I had him read it to me, and I had him read it to me again. And we started to kind of have this debate between what does this mean? What does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
And by the time we got back to Oklahoma City, my grants team had already, in our large conference room, had already put up kind of like it's like a war room, kind of like a, pros, cons, here's what this means, here's what this means, all across. And this was a Friday afternoon. It was about 4 o'clock. And I looked at it and I said, all right, we need to just take a break. We need to break away. We need to leave early. Let's let this dust settle. Let's read this over the weekend and come back on Monday. So we did that. I read it 2 more times that weekend. We obviously debated what the interpretations were and what we thought they were. Of course, that also fell into the NGA conference up in Ohio, Scott, as you recall. So there were 30 of my colleagues, 30 plus actually, and we all were kind of wondering the same thing, which ended up being a really, really good conference because I think there were a lot of uneasiness of feelings and thoughts and concerns that were probably answered there. Still some balls up in the air. But at the end of the day, we know that the rules that were presented are what we're going to follow.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to be remiss if I didn't bring up, with what we originally had with our original plan, our original submission of our proposal, and it was really competitive, Scott. We had 36 companies that had applied, and all of the technologies, fiber, fixed wireless, even satellite. So we really wanted and received a really competitive, robust type of application. That's what Oklahoma wants. That's what it deserves. And we look forward to crossing the T's and dotting the I's as we all are in this journey moving forward. We want that competitiveness and robust applications to touch all bases, because it does touch all bases.
And so as you reflect on how you and your team sort of adjusted quickly, by starting from that sort of BEAD statute established by IIJA under that original framework, and especially in light of the success that you have in the CPF program and the SLRPLA program. Before we get off into the meat and potatoes, if you will, of today's session, can you just talk at a high level, just what else you have accomplished in the office in terms of the number of projects that are ongoing, the bills that are actually happening under those programs that are not BEAD related, and that mandate you have, from your state legislature to max out, if you will, 95% plus of those broadband serviceable locations, those unserved, underserved, native communities in Oklahoma.
Scott, I'm really, really excited that you asked that question, because I think when we look back, when this is all completed, this is going to be one of the highlights of what we as an office, as a team, and quite frankly, as a state have accomplished. Year and a half ago, we started with our state and local fiscal recovery fund money from ARPA. Our state and legislature had the vision of setting aside $375 million for broadband deployment, which was really fantastic, along with $159 million from our capital projects fund. And so last year was the most historic year of investment that the state of Oklahoma has ever achieved. We have 180 projects with our state and local fiscal recovery fund, our capital projects fund, and most recently, we were able to also run a middle mile program from our SLRF monies. When you put all the monies together, it ended up being 180 projects in 59 of the 77 counties in our state. It was about an 85% fiber to 15% fixed wireless breakout. And we were able to put, along with our internet service providers, because they got to have skin in the game as well, a matching component of over $880 million of broadband investment. And that's just the programs that we're running. That doesn't take into effect of what the FCC with the enhanced ACAM. It doesn't take into effect with the NTIA with the tribal monies. As you mentioned, Scott, we've got 39 federally recognized tribes that we work with and partner with. That doesn't take into account some of the USDA rural development reconnect monies. So we're partnering with all of these because you've said it before, I've said it. It's like a puzzle. All these pieces are going to come together. We're going to avoid overbuild. Can't say enough to our Oklahoma internet service providers, my team, and honestly, I got to give a lot of credit to you, Scott, you and Reddy, because you've made our lives a lot easier with these programs that we have administered. But you guys have played a critical support role in a variety of things. And we can talk about that as we go, but just a tremendous asset to our success. I've always said this is not a me, this is a we, and you are part of that we. So our success here in Oklahoma with the investment that was made, we couldn't have done that without you and your team for sure, holding our hand through this process.
Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate that shout out. But I'd be remiss to say, and you and I have talked about this even, before we started working together. And I know all the directors who are on here, feel the same way. But it's your collective assets that are on the line. You have gone out to the communities, you have made promises, and you have engaged in stakeholders with the providers, assuring them that this program would be transparent and that, you would do exactly what the rules required, but you would do so in a way that made sure, that you captured the needs of all the constituents in Oklahoma. And I know other directors have done that as well. And so as you reflect on how you balance sort of compliance and strategy under this new framework, how are you feeling these days, and what does this new framework look like for you and protecting your collective backsides? I'll say it that way. I told my mother I'll stop cursing on these events, and it just hasn't happened yet.
Well, baby steps, Scott.
Baby steps. There we go.
That's right. Regardless of my opinion, the rules are the rules, right? Obviously, I do have thoughts, but I've always said this. Even before we started this journey together, I said that the main mission of the Oklahoma Broadband Office is to, one, achieve what the legislature told us to achieve, and that was at least 95% connectivity in the state with reliable and affordable high-speed internet. Number one. Mission accomplished there. And I say that to say that with our programs that I just briefly mentioned, with our ARPA program, we are going to achieve that 95%. And we hadn't even started BEAD. So we're excited about that and excited about the breakout and how that kind of all came to fruition. But I say, moving forward, looking at what this is, looking at, some of the guidance updates that we received, it's simple. It's really simple how I see this. And I know there's state directors from all across the country, red states, blue states. I see this, Scott, not as a red issue, not as a blue issue, but as a red, white, and blue issue. That's what we have to remember is we've got to take care of those unserved and underserved Oklahomans. And I think all my colleagues know that in their respected states, that's their mission too. Now, we've got to play with some different tools now. We have to play in some different lanes now. But I think when this is all said and done, knowing that this has never been done before, I think we're all going to be happy with what we accomplished. because this will never be done again, in my opinion. I don't see this ever happening again. The type of investment that
Mhm.
that we put towards this. I know we've got to collaborate. We collaborate with your team daily. It seems like weekly. I collaborate with my state directors on a weekly basis. So struggles, um, you could definitely throw those out there. You could, some challenging issues that we'll face. But at the end of the day, we've got 70 days. We've got 70 days to get this done for the people of Oklahoma and, quite frankly, the people of this country. It takes great uh, team members. Reddy is part of that team. You're part of that team. My team that are boots on the ground here. We feel we know what's best for Oklahoma. We think we can thread that needle and make sure that we deliver on what we said. Because you did bring up a very good point. For 2.5 years, we've been talking about this is the type of technology, this is the type of infrastructure that we're wanting to be in Oklahoma. I still feel that we're going to get a vast majority of that. It just may look a little different, but at the end of the day, personal opinion, personal thoughts aside, my job, my job is to deliver high-speed internet at the most efficient cost and efficient deployment rate as possible, according to the new rules that were released just 3 weeks ago.
Nah, can't believe it's been 3 weeks. What a
Yeah.
what a ride it's been. But let's get off into a little bit more meat and potatoes. I have a image here I want to share with everyone, and I want to talk through, sort of as we prepare for, as you prepare for this benefit of the benefit of the bargain round. I can't even freaking say it. The Bob round, the Bob Marley round
Hey,
is what
Bob.
I'm
Say
calling it.
Bob, Scott.
So the Bob Marley round. But anyways, the Bob Marley round, we're really looking at priority broadband in that definition. So let me share this really quick once again. And I think I got it right this time. All right. So how states interpret and apply the priority broadband definition is key, as you know, Mike, right? States that want to retain most of the work, if not all of the work that they've conducted, they can, including that fiber forward vision if they work from and through, that statutory definition. As you all know, you have to explain how this lowest BEAD cost as a primary scoring method does not prohibit selecting fiber projects. It just requires evidence of advanced scalability, efficiency, and future proofing. Also, interpreting lowest cost too narrowly brings in something that we call the Goldilocks complex, right? You're not factoring in scalability and deployment and speed and future proofing and the needs of businesses and households. It results in awards that can technically pass the requirements, but they'll fail to meet the long-term infrastructure needs of your communities. And when we talk about this Goldilocks compliance, Mike, what we're talking about is if you play it too safe, right, the Buble complex, and your plan under delivers for your stakeholders. If you go too bold, right, the David Bowie complex, you risk NTIA pushback and bringing in political factors, into your final plan and projects. So we want you all to find just right, that right middle Goldilocks, structured, defensible, efficient, effective, and fast solutions that work in your favor and to your goals. So what are your thoughts on that sort of Goldilocks complex? And again, you said 70 days, we're like 50 working days. In our opinion, you don't have time for these traditional, approaches to adjust this. Software makes us be able to move fast and effective. We have platforms on Rate and App that will help. But again, Mike, I want to get your perspective on, aligning this internal scoring process under your benefit of the bargain round, with this priority broadband definition.
Yeah, Scott. I think I let the cat out of the bag when I said 70 days. I don't know if my staff will watch this. I'm sure they will. I think we're going to be working some weekends, so they're not going to be happy with that. But one of the things that I think that's important is we're going to have to thread that needle. I mean, I think most states are going to have to thread that needle. I do see a silver lining. I do see. I Now it doesn't come without risk, and again, the timelines are really jammed. Where once we submit September 4th, there's not going to be a lot of back and forth, as opposed to other programs that we've administered, right? So it's going to have to be a quick turnaround time from NTIA on theirs. But at the end of the day, it's not that we're necessarily flying blindly, but it kind of feels like that. And there's that old rule out there. Sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. I think that will play into some of the decisions that are made across the country. But we're going to stick to the legislation that was originally passed. We're going to do everything by the book. We're going to follow the rules, the new guidance. I think one of the things that will be challenging, besides the timeline, is this past week, we're incorporating the unlicensed fixed wireless ISPs, and according to the data which we've received from you all, we're looking at about 5,600 locations of their footprint. Now, ultimately, it will be up to them to provide that evidence, but that plays a role and shortens the time or the window of our other process, because there's like 15 different wheels or 15 different balls up in the air, and we're all trying to catch. We're all trying to put them in the right lanes and the right pockets. We've got to figure out, and I believe that we will. I'm not sure there's enough time to scrutinize every single plan, because we've put in 18 months plus of developing this plan, as my colleagues have. Could there be corners cut? Sure. I think one other issue that I see potentially happening here in Oklahoma is, as I mentioned earlier, we had 36 companies that apply. I do see a scenario where there could be some drop-offs. I do see some scenarios where we may have some that drop out of the application process because maybe they see one technology with a leg up over the others. But what I would say to that, I'll go back, is in our programs that we ran, and I think we've kind of had a rough dress rehearsal through our ARPA. We've seen some cost-saving measures from our fiber and our fixed wireless companies that I think will be competitive. So I do see the silver lining I mentioned a second ago. I do see some lanes where I think we will be able to cover what we need to cover, but also do it in a way that is cost saving, but also keeping in mind the reliability factor, the speed factor, and the scalability factor. Because to me, those are, as much as cost is important, don't get me wrong, those other issues I think are just as important. So threading that needle to get to that Goldilocks moment will be interesting, but I believe we will get there.
Yeah, and I'm sharing right now, Mike, on the screen is sort of thank you and your team, for helping ready. We've come up with an SBO, the model decision tree, right? When you talk about that, utilizing that priority project and broadband definition, as well as the benefit of the bargain round. Thank you and your team. We're sharing this with everyone on the call. Again, we love to work with you through our rate module, the Ready Agnostic Technology Evaluator. But again, we've already mapped this out. And I think this is the great benefits of software and working with some of the states that we've worked with and challenge process and Mike with his team. But we've mapped out this model decision tree. So folks, here it is right here. Are there any project areas for priority project areas for the area? Yes, no. This is a decision matrix and tree that walks you all the way through, as Mike was just talking about, that complex application of not just cost, lowest cost, but also scalability and looking forward to how do you preserve as much as work as you can that you've conducted with those core ISPs in your state to meet the needs of your unserved and underserved communities and locations. So, I mean, I'm not going to walk through this step by step, but this is available. I ask folks if you want this. I think we outlined this in our on our blog and in our white paper that we released, but we'll make this available to you as well. And obviously, if you are a part of our customer tree and base, you have access to this. But this is a complex sort of decision matrix that walks us all the way through based on non-priority or priority status, all the way through lowest cost, all the way through any preliminary selected subgrantees for those of you who completed, pre-qualification and application phases. Which applicant proposes the best network performance. So Mike, getting into you were talking about, not just relying on cost, but network operations and applicability in terms of technology, the fastest to deployment, and then you fall back to that minimal BEAD outlay as that final tiebreaker. And so this decision maker, this matrix really walks through all of that, including that excessive cost that a lot of folks like to highlight. And I go back to that, Mike, because Nevada had talked about that in their IPv2. It was one location that was $77,000, and that gets, broadcasted now as, Nevada is spending $77,000 per location. It was taken out of context, but I get the concern. What are you seeing in terms of some preliminary costs or basis on location costs that you're seeing in your projects?
Well, we're, obviously once we get more information back, our data back, that will give our team time to look at those costs. Now, I can just use examples of our previous programs that we ran. We saw some pretty high costs. But again, these are the places that have been left behind for decades. It is the most expensive, the hardest to reach areas of our state. Now, those of you not familiar with Oklahoma, we have 10 different types of terrain. So there are a lot of weather incidents here in Oklahoma. We have a lot of natural disasters with tornadoes and fires, and a lot of different things along those lines. But we also have 39 tribal nations. So I would say that, and they've been great to work with, by the way, Scott. They really have, because they see the absolute benefit. But in those areas that our tribal nations live are some of the toughest, most difficult places. So I think once we get more information back from our unlicensed fixed wireless, I think some of the information that you all are collecting for us, I think we're going to have we'll be able to hone in on some more specific numbers and closing that number. I think you're going to see a lot of high cost, but again, my opinion only, just because you live in a different zip code doesn't necessarily mean that you should be penalized because of that. So I think they should have every opportunity and every right to have high-speed internet as someone that lives in downtown Oklahoma City or downtown Tulsa. To me, I don't see a difference. So again, we're still collecting some of that information. I do believe the whole intention of the purpose of BEAD was to reach those high cost thresholds, to reach those really difficult places. And we're going to do everything we can to stay true to that form. um, but also play by the rules.
Yeah. And let's go to our next segment before we open it up to questions. I want to talk about this prepping for cleanup, right? Building your final proposal readiness into your benefit of the bargain round. As you all know, the benefit of the bargain defines the projects, the locations, and decisions that your final proposal must reflect, right? And that's due September at or around September 4th, right? Every provider communication, scoring, justification on location decision must be documented now, and then, summarized in that process. So we've taken all of, this process and really fast tracked this in a less than 90-day time frame, Mike. So if you can and help the other directors on here, how is Oklahoma approaching this, building that final proposal preparedness as a result of your benefit of the bargain round?
Yeah, gosh, I could spend all day with you on this, Scott. Um, as we thread this needle, um, and look at getting this built, it's kind of like flying an airplane while building it, at the same time now. I think time management is going to be something that is absolutely critical for every state director and their teams. I know sometimes people don't want to work on the weekends or they don't want to work, late in the evenings because everyone has families. I get it. But we're kind of in that spot. Time management, I think, is going to be one of the most critical elements that we've got to get under wraps. But I think something that's been helpful for us has been, working with someone like you, Scott, and your company, the ability to have our stuff automated. I can't tell you how many years you probably have added to my life and my team's life by having this tool, because we're not necessarily reinventing the wheel or having our team do this by hand. Although our team still will have to, check the evidence, and we'll have to go through the scalability and the deployment of speed and networking, the network speed and this and that. That's to be expected because we are the boots on the ground, the experts here in Oklahoma. But I think one thing I'd take away is every day we're building with great companies like yours that you're leading. We've got to figure out how to get all this done within now 70 days. And time management is absolutely critical. That's one thing I would absolutely take away, along with the other 4,000 pieces that are still floating up in the air.
Yeah, yeah. And I know, Mike, that we stay away from absolutes because I know, we're still working and you're still developing action plans and approaches and how you want to do this. And there's obviously there's a political component to this that we're not talking about. We're not there yet, but obviously as this goes to NTIA, I know we've exchanged some strategies how states collectively we can probably work together to not be caught up in a red state versus blue state determination in the final part of this, and we'll share some of that in a bit. But again, I think that time management piece is very important, and the sanity of your team, right?
Yeah.
I always told you, we joked about this. I was skinny, I had hair, and wasn't great when we started all this, and now I can't say that. So the fact that we've added some days to your life, I will take that as a compliment. But
Absolutely.
not to make this a full infomercial, but we do want to take advantage of this opportunity for the states that we're not working with. Again, Mike had talked openly about exactly what we can provide and what we can do, and it's really an apples comparison of how you can really look at the data that you've already collected, both granular and the V6, the unlicensed fixed wireless, and really compare and contrast, and then be able to apply, the priority broadband definition and the statutory CAI definition, to get to a place where obviously you want to preserve as a state as much of, if not all of the hard work that you all, have conducted. So, this is just an infomercial of some of the things that we're working with, Mike, with you, with your team and others, to be able to do that through software to save a lot of time and make sure that we're executing with efficiency and the the precision that's required. So, Mike, at this time we've got 20 minutes left, so I want to open it up to questions from the directors and attendees here. Any questions for Mike Sanders? Any different perspectives, approaches that you all may have as attendees that you want to open at this time? Please raise your hand and we will open up your mic and we can begin. So I'll start, Mike, with one question. It says, thanks, Director Sanders, for sharing what's happening with Oklahoma. You referenced many areas of Oklahoma that are hard to reach. The really diverse topography of your state is also a huge component in any network build. How will the updated guidance, or how does the updated guidance potentially impact that aspect of broadband expansion throughout the Sooner State?
Well, it could really affect it positively or negatively. How about that political answer? I appreciate the question. Again, until we get all of the data, and we're very close, we could see where the different types of technology will change. And I would suspect, and again, this is not, hyperbole. I think it will change, especially when you're dealing with the cost issue. Now, I'm more fearful that those particular areas don't get served at all. I do see a scenario, as I said moments ago, that I could see some of those areas that those particular companies that perhaps bid on this area, in the first round, not bid again and pull that back. And that will be disappointing. But I also understand from a business model, I also understand that it's a huge risk. But at the end of the day, I want to be as helpful to every internet service provider. I want our nets to be applied for. I want as many companies that can come into Oklahoma to serve those people. Again, my mission is to serve those unserved, underserved Oklahomans. So without saying anything at this point, because I just don't know, but I would say reality would set in that there would be either no bids for those really high cost threshold areas. But I also see an opportunity for getting some technology of high speed internet to those areas. And so once we get all this taken care of here in the coming weeks, we'll have more to report back on. But I am cautiously optimistic that we will continue to build on those applications. But again, with the rules in place, I know that there will be some concern. But I'm hopeful, and we're going to be as helpful as we can.
Well, I do want to. I'm going to post here in the chat. So we released a white paper yesterday, the BEAD Restructure Reality. Again, I want to just talk to the directors who are on here. Part of Ready's mission, Public Benefit Corporation. Whether you work with us or not, it's irrelevant. We would love to work with every state. The reality is we won't be able to, but we are trying to add to the discourse and to add to the knowledge base so that all of you have information that you need to make the best decisions for you. So we released a very detailed paper thought piece yesterday. I am posting this into the chat for everyone to see. If you haven't seen that, please, let me see, it's not working. But anyway, we'll put this in there and we'll make sure that that you get the link to this blog and white paper, on all of the components. And then actively really thinking about what comes next, because this is only the beginning. As Mike and I know, we've been in this broadband space and game for a while. Mike is much younger than I am, but this is the beginning. This is just the beginning, right? So, we have to start thinking about the protection and resiliency of the networks and the assets that these projects will bring to our communities. And we've got something on that in just a bit. Oh, we got another question. Craig has raised his hand. Craig,
It always helps to unmute the microphone.
always.
Thank you guys. Been great conversation. Director Sanders, I'm always curious about the input that a broadband office receives, not just from the constituents statewide, but from the ISPs. Anytime that there has been a change in the rules of the game, especially when you're changing the rules in the middle of the ball game, in the middle of the stream, what's been the general consensus from interactions that you've gotten across the state? And I know you are constantly in touch with people all across the state. Just curious about that.
That's a great question, Craig. I think one of the questions that we get, it's kind of like a similar theme, is, well, what do we apply for? With what technology? What is it? Fiber? Is it fixed wireless? Is it something else? What is it that you're looking for? And again, we want to make sure that this process is fair, it's transparent, it's something that we believe is the right way to do this whole thing. Is we have our comms team has set up an FAQ, and there's numerous questions that are asked, and there are so many different questions that we get on a daily basis. One of the things that we do is we keep this updated on a daily, 3 or 4 times a week basis. Cost is always going to be a question. What type of technology? The internet service providers that have gone through this already have said, well, we may really not do this again, which is again a concern. But I'm trying to teach and coach and get them all back into a good spot so they can apply. I think one of the things that's been clear and good for us when we communicate with these internet service providers and the folks of Oklahoma and other stakeholders and lawmakers is we talk out of one mouth. What we say is consistent across the board. If one internet service provider asks the question, then we answer it, and everyone gets the same answer. I think that is something that has helped us tremendously. Everyone that is on our website that we send out weekly updates, all the providers, they get the same information real time, and that, Craig, has been something that has been so beneficial to our process. It's not a he said, she said, but again, we don't have enough time in the day to go through every one of these questions, but it's quite lengthy. The BEAD questions have been, and there's been an uptick since June 6th, and rightfully so. But we keep that updated daily and weekly for sure.
Thank you. Let me ask a follow-up to that, because that raises, and I know this impacts all the directors who are on the webinar. What has been the general sentiment? You said you've initially engaged with 36 different providers, distinct to Oklahoma, or that at least serve Oklahoma. I'm assuming most of them are Oklahoma, small and local providers. What has been their reaction to this benefit of the bargain round and this approach to, a cost-centric, technologically neutral approach? How have you engaged with those stakeholders to keep that participation high, right? And to not trade off on the credibility of your office, that you're going to do things the way in accordance to the guidance and the program rules?
Very carefully is my answer to that, because their questions have been more, concern, or their question has been, well, this really leans towards one technology over the other forms of technology, so maybe we shouldn't even apply. And I said this earlier in my comments. I believe there's a lane. There's a lane where these co-ops, telephone, electric co-ops, or tribal partners, or family-owned companies, or mom and pops, even our fixed wireless folks, there is a lane that they can be as competitive as the other forms of technology that we mentioned earlier. So I think first thing is listening to them, walking them off the cliff, so to speak.
Mhm.
But again, until we open up our application process, until we get the letter back from NTIA,
Yep.
until we get the approval and some of the data that we're waiting from our unlicensed fixed wireless folks, our job is to help explain, answer questions in the meantime, ease that fear, ease those concerns. But at the end of the day, these companies will have to make the decision what's best for them. I hope they make the right decision, and I hope that they take this chance and risk, because it is a risk. I totally get that, because the people of Oklahoma deserve high-speed internet. The
Mhm.
people of Oklahoma absolutely have been waiting for this, not only to improve their lives in from a healthcare standpoint, an education standpoint, a public safety standpoint, economic development standpoint.
Mhm.
Those people deserve the best possible high-speed internet connectivity, and I'm going to do everything I can to deliver. I don't do anything halfway. I know one speed, and that's full speed. And again, I'll stop there to say, Scott, you and your team, you're right there with us. Hand in lock footstep. It's been full speed since June 6th. And again, those states that are still thinking about you or other people, I'm just going to say from our experience, we cannot and could not do this without the professionalism, without the expertise that your team provides, because it is, I can't put a price tag on what we've got from you all. So I just appreciate you all very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here today and answer questions. And I'm sure next time I see some of my colleagues, I'm sure they will probably poke fun at my casual dress and amongst other things. But really appreciate today, sir.
No, thank you, Mike, and the work that you and your team are doing on behalf of Oklahomans is indeed outstanding. And we see all the posts and the work, and the shovels in the ground, the impact that you all are making, and all the directors are making, is absolutely going to benefit the country, right? Like you said,
Right.
it's not
That's
red
right.
or blue; it's red, white, or blue. I have another question for you, Mike. Is there a chance, this is staying with your providers and your engagement? Is there a chance that the office will reach out to providers in the event that eligible locations that don't receive any applications? Is there a chance that you'll reach out then to those select providers to say, hey, we need you?
Yeah, I think so. We're still formulating our overall strategy, but I think we'll see ahead of time. Some areas, some really the hardest to reach areas. But I do believe that will be part of our strategy moving forward.
All right, well, Mike, I'm not going to behold you any longer. I know you have a lot to do. You're natly dressed for a reason. You're meeting with legislatures uh,
Yep.
legislators, excuse me, and folks in the stakeholders throughout Oklahoma. So I want to thank you again for the opportunity to be with us and share a little bit of your perspective, your approach of how you're thinking about this restructure guidance and the benefit of the bargain round. And again, thank you for the opportunity to work with you and your team. For everyone else who's here, we put this link to again the BEAD Restructure Reality white paper that we released. Would love for you to read through it, provide constructive feedback, different perspectives. Even if you disagree or you're approaching it differently, we want to engage in you in a manner that, again, that is holistic and comprehensive, and again, is designed to ensure, that you and your programs and the people that you represent, you get your programs across the line in a way that is preserving the work that you've done, but also adhering to the structure and the guidance of the new policy notice. So again, please feel free to read through that and reach out to us if you have any questions, or if you want to see rate and app and ARC and our entire software, our fleet of software services, please reach out to us. So, Mike, thank you again for your time and wisdom today. I appreciate you so much, and you and your team have been nothing short of fabulous to work with.
Well, thank you. The feeling's very mutual. We're happy that you're with us on this exciting journey moving forward, my friend.